So, good afternoon, everybody, to our Dianthus Week panel. Um, People who are connected around the world and people who will see this panel afterwards in our YouTube channel. We are very pleased to count with your presence here. We will have simultaneous translation, so if you need to go to the Spanish channel, please click on the interpretation link down below in the bar. Para los que quieran escuchar el panel en español, no olviden poner.
For those of you that want to listen to the panel in Spanish, don't forget to choose the interpretation link, which is on the bottom bar.
We will not be able to have a Q&A session from the attendees due to the time. However, if there's some questions you want to propose to the Dianthus family, please don't hesitate in contacting us in Florist. Remember to check our webpage, dianthusweek.com, where you can see all the varieties that the breeders have prepared for the growers and the buyers for the future. In this case, I would like to invite Augusto Solano as president of Azocol Florist to give some words to the panel.
Thank you, Andrés. Do you hear me well?
Yes, Augusto.
Well, hello everyone in different parts of the world. We're very happy because we're having a great attendance from many participants in different countries. Welcome to Dianthus Week in Colombia 2021. This is the second edition of this event. Last year we had the first one. As you all may know, Dianthus has a special meaning for Colombia, as it was the first species grown here in Colombia 55 years ago. And it gave the way to what Colombian floriculture is today. Since then, Dianthus has evolved every year. And today, as we can see, we've been able to see in the showcases last week, the enormous variety of colors, textures, and shapes that Dianthus can give. So it's a great flower. We love it, and Colombia has remained committed to be the largest, most important grower of carnations with the best quality, very well recognized all over the world. And today, we're happy to have with us also Flavia Santoro, who is the director of ProColombia, our export promotion agency in the country. Also for the panel, again, we're pleased to have Becky Roberts from PMA, who is going to be the moderator, and we really appreciate, Becky, your valuable collaboration. Also in our panel, we're going to have Debbie Zoellick from Walmart, and we're going to have Debora Steier from Albertsons, Erin Esensee from HEB Blooms, David Dahlson from Mayesh, Andrés Toro representing the Dianthus Growers from Colibri Flowers, and also we have a special participation from Sarah Campbell from Intrigue Design. So I think this panel promises to be really interesting, and I welcome you all and appreciate your presence. So Becky, please, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
I would like to begin by thanking Andrés Sáenz, Executive Director at Florist. And I would also like to thank the President at Azocol Florist, Augusto Solano. And of course, a very special greeting to the international buyers who are connected today, as well as to the breeders and exporters of carnations. The Carnation Week, known this year as the Dianthus Week 2021, for sure has become a key activity for the Colombian floriculture sector. Our country is the main producer and exporter of carnations in the world. Indeed, in 2020, the sector's exports reached over $1.4 billion, which represents around 250,000 tons of product. Certainly, our beautiful flowers are essential in our economy since they represent 25 of the country's agricultural exports and employs about 140,000 people, of which 65% are women. The national government and ProColombia are committed to continue increasing these sales figures that I have just mentioned. Therefore, this is one of the sectors that we have prioritized in our economic reactivation plan. Also, we will continue supporting the sector by inviting international buyers through ProColombia's 23 commercial office abroad to participate in this very special week and get to know our country's quality and variety of Dianthus. Events like this, in which we have the opportunity to share our origin and our potential with large international buyers, allow us to learn about the needs of these markets and consumers and be ready to take advantage of the new opportunities that arise under the current situation. I would like to invite breeders and exporters to continue working together with ProColombia so that the world continues choosing Colombian flowers. We thank buyers for trusting our country as an ideal supplier of flowers. We are convinced that as our carnations, your business will successfully flourish in Colombia.
El Dianthus Week realmente es el empuje de todos los colombianos por mejorar la imagen del clavel y por darle una nueva tendencia a esta flor que tiene tanto colorido y tantas texturas en el mundo. Al unirnos los hibridadores en Colombia, le facilitamos a todos nuestros clientes internacionales indirectos y a nuestros clientes directos la selección de las mejores variedades.
Nosotros en las vitrinas, o lo que tratamos de mostrar anualmente, son códigos y variedades nuevas desarrolladas. También se siembran las variedades que son comerciales actuales, pero se trata de poner las variedades nuevas que estamos introduciendo.
Para nosotros es importante porque logramos reunir a muchas personas importantes dentro de la industria que compran dentro de Estados Unidos, como son los supermercados y mayoristas. Logramos mostrarles a ellos todas las nuevas genéticas y variedades que estamos por lanzar en los próximos años, y es un paso para que ellos vayan conociéndonos.
Todos los breeders unirnos para promover y mostrarle al mundo que simplemente no es clavel, sino que hay mini clavel, hay diferentes familias como el Dianthus, Breanthus, que son flores en formas de bolas, hay diferentes texturas, colores, formas, con una versatilidad impresionante en el uso de arreglos florales y una duración en el florero excepcional.
Vemos que la gran diversidad de colores, la gran diversidad de formas que tiene el Dianthus no siempre llegan hasta los usuarios finales, y consideramos que es muy importante que para que el mercado de clavel crezca para los productores, para los comercializadores, debemos promover mejor el producto y no que se nos quede solamente en las formas básicas y los colores básicos.
El clavel va a ganar en valor, los cultivadores van a poder cultivar una flor que van a vender mejor, y así toda la cadena tendría más valor. O sea que que esto es como iniciar una cadena con una nueva dinámica y con una nueva energía.
Entonces, en general ha ido retomando fuerza nuevamente. Tenemos muchas novedades, muchas variedades nuevas. Es una flor muy versátil, de muy buena durabilidad en florero, y esto ha ayudado a que cada día coja más fuerza ante los floristas, en los supermercados, a que la gente quiera la flor y la quiera consumir.
Queremos posicionar al clavel como una flor importante, como una flor que tiene muchísimas variedades, muchísimos colores, una flor que puede ser el mejor ornato en las casas. Nuestros clientes siempre buscan innovación y la tenemos.
Bueno, esta segunda edición del Dianthus Week que tiene lugar en el momento en 2021, que sea la posibilidad y el abrebocas para invitarlos a todos a participar también en la edición del año próximo 2022.
Let's get to know what the Dianthus breeding process is like, its selection and production. The process takes approximately 6 years since the beginning, until the variety is ready for the market. Let's look at the process over the years. Year 0, crossings are made. First step is collecting pollen. Pollen is applied when the stigma is ready. The petals have been removed. The pollinated stigma has to be protected. The following year, year 1, the seeds are obtained. These are the ready seeds. Some fruits have 50 to 100 seeds, and some only have 5 to 20 seeds. Sowing the seeds is done by hand, seed by seed. The seedlings are ready for planting in the greenhouse. From thousands of seedlings, only 1% will be selected for another test in the coming year. During year 2, the first flowering of hybrid plants is carried out. Propagation of the selected seedlings for a second selection is done. During the following years, year 3 and 4, the second and third flowering takes place, making a selection of the new codes in a bigger scale of 20 plants per code. Therefore, the 5th year, we already have some commercial varieties, which are introduced to the market and flower buyers in the 6th year. As world quality producers and part of the Dianthus family, our purpose is turning these common perceptions, old-fashioned, grandma's flowers, funeral flowers, don't open, not enough of novelty varieties, brittle, some varieties prone to breakage, cheap, into these ones, long-lasting, clean, bright colors. Love the new novelty, diversity, potential, bountiful, history, royal and divine flower, coronation, great value. We hope to uplift Dianthus varieties, giving them the deserved representation as divine inspirational flowers. When it comes to Dianthus, more is more. Variety, resistance, color, possibilities.
Okay, thank you very much to everyone who's connected. I would like to thank especially to our sponsors, our breeders of Dianthus, Ball, Breyer Cross, Dassinger, Dumen Orange, Gilberta Florist, Propagar Plantas, Santa Maria, SBTale Selecta. Together with the support of Asocol Flores and ProColombia, we bring to you this virtual panel. Remember that you can choose the language you want to listen to the panel. We have Spanish and English available. Recuerden que pueden escoger el idioma en el que quieren escuchar el panel.
Remember, you can choose the language in which you want to listen to this panel. We have Spanish and English interpretation.
Becky Roberts, Director of Floral for PMA. Looks like Rebecca is connecting. I would like to introduce then our panelists, Deborah Zoellick from Walmart, Debora Steier from Albertsons, Erin Esensee from H.B. Blooms, David Dahlson from Mayesh Wholesale Florist, Andrés Toro from Colibri Flowers, and Sarah Campbell from Intrigue Designs. Now we have Becky. Hi, Becky. Nice to have you here.
Oh, hello, Andres. Thank you. Had a little technical problem there, but thank you. I'm really looking forward to joining the panel today and hearing everyone's perceptions and thoughts and comments about the Dianthus. So we'll go ahead and get started. But thank you, Andres, for the introductions, and we'll go ahead and have some conversation now. So I think I want to kick it off with all of you just kind of telling me and our attendees all about your thoughts and perceptions around Dianthus and carnations. So just to help kick us off, let's have Sarah Campbell share some of her thoughts around Dianthus. What's your perceptions? Is Sarah on? Did she unmute herself?
All right, that's better.
There you go.
Thank you very much. It's really nice to meet everyone here. This is an interesting part of the floral world to be part of. So I'm primarily a wedding and event florist. And when I see carnations, I have seen very few in my work over the years. The interesting thing that's happening right now is that I think a lot of florists are looking for products that haven't been overdone on the market, which I think is interesting for carnations.
Okay, that's a very good perception for us to hear about. So let's see, David, what's your perceptions around carnations and Dianthus?
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure and honor to be here representing Mayesh Wholesale and WF&FSA as a whole. I see two streams of opportunity, commercial opportunity for carnations, actually for most flowers, that in the supermarkets and mass markets, and the creative floral professional designers and wedding and event producers. To me, the market seems to be diverging the two. And I don't want to put down supermarkets. They've done an amazing job of really bringing flowers into the mainstream. But it's a bit different for the people who do weddings and events, because they, as Sarah just said, they're looking for exclusive and different things to differentiate themselves in the marketplace, and that's driven really by the consumer. I mean, someone who's paying a lot of money to have a wedding, but they want to have something that's a bit unique and a bit distinctive. So what bothers me is that the focus on lower prices that I see in the mass markets means that the decision making of the growers, it's difficult, but there's not a lot of margin there. So as a wholesaler of flowers, it's hard to see how it's going to be elevated to a luxury item without some strategic changes in the way that they're marketed. I've seen an ongoing a bifurcation in the marketplace with, for instance, in roses, companies such as Elite, Passion, and Color Republic, who are, just, it's all about what the return is per square foot in the mass markets. And for my customers, it's different. And we can see that in exclusive roses, such as Toffee, such as Westminster Abbey, and garden roses, those niches are getting upwards of $1 a stem, FOB, the country that they're grown in. And I think that's pretty more, I would think, the mindset of carnation growers have got to look at going forward. And I would say the breeders, too, ought to be contacting wholesalers and consumers in the States to see what it is that they want. I see the push through from breeders through growers seems to be the wrong way. I know it's been done traditionally that way, but it seems to be much more market research has to be done in what the consumers and the distributors think is valuable.
And from your perspective, then, you think today's consumers will be able to tell a difference between special flowers to be used at events for weddings or the flowers that they would want just for an everyday? So you're thinking the consumer could be educated around this?
I think the consumer can be educated. I see what we do a bit like what we have in the food industry. You have products that get to fine restaurants you can't buy in a supermarket. And I like to feel that we offer those exclusive items to wedding designers, event planners, and specialty florists. So I'm going to be honest, I want something a bit different in a carnation than what is will be found in a supermarket.
Okay, well, thank you, David. How about Erin with HEB? You want to share some of your perceptions and what your thoughts are around the Dianthus and carnations?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to David's point, we're in a unique position. We sell to the mass market, but we also do event work. So I think we're always looking for what's new and exciting. And carnations typically, for people my age and older, have not been new or fresh. But I think there's so much new in the market that we have a new consumer that, quite frankly, has never, doesn't have a perception of carnations that we have. So how do we change that, tell the story, and maybe just open our own minds to it as a different flower, than the one we saw with our grandparents. So the new varieties that were sent, they're gorgeous. I think there's so many different varieties of Dianthus that most people aren't educated about. I think telling that story is really going to be key to the success.
Yeah, I think you're hitting a really strong point there. We know that we can reinvent things. Certainly the Cadillac was always thought as your grandparents' car, and certainly now they have reinvented themselves and really come out and really being able to connect with the younger generation. So certainly to your point, Erin. So Debora Steier with Albertsons, what's your thoughts around the Dianthus and carnations?
Oh, I agree with a lot of what Erin said. And when I think about carnations, I think about what's happened in the industry of home decor. And everything that the millennials are looking at are things that they love, are things that their grandmother loves. Not their parents, not their mother, but their grandmother. And if we take that approach, and then they're looking for a new twist right on top of it, right? So you've got love the heritage, what grandma had, they enjoy those sort of things. And then how do they make it new and fresh? And I think carnations are great to fit that bill. They fit the bill of what grandma loved, right? Grandma's flowers, that was a negative, but it can also be a very good positive. It can be about heritage. It can be about nostalgia, which are all very big buzzwords. And then taking these new beautiful varieties, the textures, the colors, and how we pair them, I think is vitally important to change the image. If we continue to go out and look at red, white, and pink only, we will never change that image. But if we look at some of these new antique novelties that are out there and pair them well together and do tonal things, then you get this really elevated look for carnations. Plus, on top of it, you get the long-lasting vase life that they have, It has great smell to it, which a lot of our flowers don't now. You can create this whole nostalgic feeling of carnations and bringing it into a fresh market. And they're ready and ripe to be displayed that way and promoted that way.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. I agree. I think there's some great opportunities on that storytelling. And certainly our industry's really struggled on how to connect with consumers around that. So Andres, from a grower's perspective and being in Colombia, can you share a little bit about what your perception and thoughts and comments are around Dianthus and carnations?
Well, I agree with Deborah and Erin's perception that there is a lack of education on carnations. I think, and it takes me back 30 years. I remember 30 years ago, the Colombian Flower Council hired a florist, which was very good back then. Her name was Barbara Hahn, and she came here. She came to visit several farms, and she couldn't believe the amount of varieties that we produced. I mean, in her head, it was just red, white, and pink, and some novelties, you know, the basic colors. But when you see the effort that breeders have made in these past 20 years and the amount of varieties and colors that they have introduced, I mean, carnations are huge, huge. And there is a tremendous opportunity. I mean, this is one of the eldest flowers in the world. I mean, you can find it in art. I mean, there is a painting by Leonardo called the Madonna of the Carnation. You can find it in Munich. I mean, this is a really important flower. I mean, if you go back to James Bond, I mean, in 1962, Dr. No, I mean, he steps out of a wetsuit and he's on this tuxedo, and the first thing he does is put on a carnation on his jacket. I mean, this is a sexy flower. This is great value. It's classy. It's versatile. I mean, it's well, I could go on and on, but go on.
I think you hit the nail there with that. I appreciate your thoughts there. So then we want to invite Deb Zoellick with Walmart to share some of her thoughts around carnations and Dianthus.
It is a sexy flower. It really is. It's not your red, white, and pink that even I remember carnations to be. There's so many unique breeders out there that have done so many unique new varieties. The customer, though, well, especially at Walmart, they don't necessarily know what a carnation and a mini carnation, what's the difference? So this item with so many different varieties, we just need to tell people what they are, and then how long they last, because the American consumer is looking for a value, always a value. And once they try it, they won't leave. They'll stay. So I'm just really impressed because I think that carnations have a really solid future ahead of them. And all the different things that are out there. You guys have been fantastic, these breeders, on this and others.
Well, thank you. So I think what we want to do now is kind of dig a little bit deeper into where do we see the opportunities for this flower, and how do we really enhance the consumer's perception? So we know as far as within the industry, we all kind of understand where carnations and Dianthus, but from a consumer's perspective, how do we start really taking advantage of some opportunities to really get the consumer to understand and embrace carnations? So let's start with Debora Steier. What's your thoughts on where's our big opportunity here?
Which one? There's a lot of there's a lot of great opportunities, and I touched on a little bit when I answered. And I think it's about how we present it to the customer. You know, we as a retailer in our world have to start demanding from growers that they combo carnations in a different way, in a unique way. If we start to combo them different than we have in the past, that's number one. That's step number one. Get something unique, something that catches their eye, driven it around this color. I mean, carnations have this ability with these intense, beautiful colors to really have a big impact. So number one, step up and change the way we present them. So the combinations in our bouquets, the combinations that we've done in the past, I believe that we should absolutely stay away from carnations and baby's breath. That is a big, giant no-no. And it continues to perpetuate the thought of it being grandma's flower. So combo it, big no's out there, things that we've done in the past, we just have to step away from. There's lots of opportunity here when you look at some of these beautiful designs and you think about what's trending, you think about farm grow, you think about all these other really amazing things that are happening. And the shape and the texture of carnations play beautifully into that type of design nowadays. So we can, those are the types of combos I'm thinking in my mind. How do we combo them so they look like those very airy, very textural, very undesigned designs, because they do take quite a bit to design, but to the consumer, they look undesigned. So, but those would now start to change the perception of carnation because of the way we presented it to our consumer. That's the approach that we're going to take in our business. So I think there's lots of opportunity.
Thank you, Deborah. So David, how about from your perspective, where do you see the great opportunity for us to really change what the consumer's perceptions are, even to educate them on around carnations and dianthus?
Well, I definitely echo what Deborah just said. I mean, it's the company you keep that really distinguishes any product. And I think for too long, carnations have been associated with baby's breath, chrysanthemums, you know, sort of a lower rung of flowers, and they need to change. By the way, I'm old enough to actually sell flowers, and when I first started in 1981, they sold them like this, wrapped up in string, all the heads on the same level, and I think you'll notice they were all open in that time. And I think one issue for a lot of consumers is the carnations come in so tight that it's hard to get a glimpse of what they're going to do. And these, it took me 8 days to get these open. And a lot of people, the rest of their flower arrangement would have died by then. So you can make carnations as long lasting as you want, but in an arrangement, the other flowers have to keep up. I think we need to look at a different presentation. People are using flowers, you know, much, they want it and they want it now. They want it ready to work with. And there's not a lot of patience to let something open up. And the more these open, I'm seeing that there's actually a lot more dynamic activity and color than I was previously aware of. So I think in designing, yes, they have some amazing colors and shapes now, but I think it's important that the designers present them in different ways with different textures and different flowers, different stem lengths, and so on and so forth. I think that's going to be critical. Is the environment in which they are placed.
Thank you, David. So Sarah, how about you, from your perspective, where do you think the big opportunity is when you think about how to really get consumers to connect with dianthus and carnations?
I love this question. So the amazing thing right now in the world that we're in is trends are easy to set. We have this social media and this connection through our marketing on social media and campaigns that we can flood whatever trend it is that we want. So if we want to sell more carnations, well, I'm not selling carnations necessarily, but if the growers and suppliers want to sell carnations, then we need to see them in the social media feeds. Those leading designers, they need to be showcasing that flower because that's what everyone's looking to. So if I was a farm or a supplier and I wanted to get my carnations out everywhere, I would make sure that I had a good year-long plan. And with that year-long plan, I want to see my carnations or carnations in general featured in all the top event designers across the board. And that will trickle down into the layers of all these designers that are looking for their inspirations are the top designers. They're looking to see what's happening, what's going on. And honestly, I think my biggest challenge, and I bet it's the biggest challenge of my industry when it comes to carnations, is it's not front of mind. We kind of have, and this is no disrespect, like we have kind of forgotten the carnation. And even like just being here the last few minutes, I'm feeling excited about carnations because we're talking about it. And I have used them. I know them. I like them. they do really well for my kind of work. I do large scale installations and some really interesting things that I need flowers to hold up well out of water. Carnation is the flower. Why am I not talking about this? So anyway, I really focus my marketing, what I do on social media. So whenever I'm talking to anyone else, I don't see any better way. You know, we see elections take over social media. Like, why not have flowers take over social media?
That's a good thought. We can only hope it would be as happy and fun, right?
It'll be way happier and way more fun.
Thank you, Sarah. So Erin, what's your thoughts?
You know, I kind of echo what Sarah and Deborah both said about, you know, it's how we use it. It's kind of how we show it to the consumer. I know you have the bouquet behind you, Becky. I have the one here, and I'll tell you, you know, that combination of different dianthus is just stunning. And how do we make sure we're, you know, I guess for me, it's more the partnerships. So from the breeder to our growers, meeting with our design teams to really design something that's retail ready for our consumer, you know, and also educate them on, once you get it home, how do you get the best result? Because at the end of the day, the end consumer is, you know, where it ends up on their table is how they're going to see it. So if they don't design, you know, they don't cut it the right way, they don't present it the right way, we're not going to get that great result. And I just think the education and the storytelling is something that we really, you know, to Sarah's point, whether that's on social media or in your stores, you know, we've got to get that communication out there because we just don't do a good enough job of telling that story. But that partnership is going to be key because you guys can develop the best breeds, we can have the greatest varieties available, but if we're not, you know, introducing that to the end consumer, that's where we're going to miss out. So it's exciting to see. I'm kind of with Sarah on this. I've never been a huge fan of a dianthus, but starting to fall in love all over again. So it's a great, you know, just different design techniques like pavéing and, you know, doing some things that we're used to seeing. You know, if you hold the carnation up by itself, it's not exactly pretty. It doesn't have, you know, it has long legs, but it just kind of hangs there. So I think learning to design in a different way with these flowers will really take us to the next level.
So you certainly bring a good point. I just want to ask you a little follow-up question. So from your perspective, do you feel like you have a great collaboration right now between breeder grower and you as the buyer to really develop and get to what you're looking, the things the consumer wants and needs and that kind of stuff?
I will say, I'm sure, I know there's lots of people on this call. I'm sure a lot of my vendor partners are on here. And absolutely, I think that's something we really have a strong vendor base and a strong partnership. But I think having these conversations, the one thing that I think we've all struggled with in the past year is we're just, and so hopefully within the next year we can get to we're having more creative conversations again. I think that's the one downside COVID kind of threw us all into a tailspin. So for me, it's more about getting back to those conversations and really taking those partnerships to the next level. But I do think if you are in a position where you're buying and you don't have that strong relationship, you know, that's going to be a missing because you need to have people that are bringing you the newest, you know, varieties from breeders and working with you. You know, to me, that's really where you win is when you collaborate on that.
Thank you. So Andres, what's your thought as far as where's our next opportunity here for the dianthus and carnations to really get the consumers to embrace this flower?
Well, I totally agree with what Sarah and Erin were saying, and it comes to my mind a phrase from an old teacher that said, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. We need to educate our customers. I mean, it's such an amazing product and they don't know about it. I mean, I'm just surprised that people are in love with such an incredible product. And the reason they are not in love is because we breeders and growers of the dianthus community haven't done enough to promote this flower. We need to put it in front of people. If, as Sarah says, we need to create a trend, well, let's do it. But we need to have a professional and helping us in that. The flower by itself is just great value. It's long lasting. It's I mean, all the attributes are there.
Well, I absolutely agree with you there. And I guess it's all about how we try to come together as an industry to see what we could do to really get the consumer message out there. So I thank you for that very much, Andres. So Deb Zoellick, what's your thoughts around where's our big opportunity here to really get connected with the consumer around this product?
Okay, there's so many uses for this item, but we have to work together. There's several of us in this group, and I'm not even aware of all the new and different varieties. They come to me once you guys, the growers and the breeders, decide, who's going to buy your product is the end consumer. And who's closer to the end consumer than the people that are selling your product for you? So there has to be a little bit more a lot more collaboration with the breeders. We can partner with a grower. If we like it, I can ask somebody to fast track it and grow it, try it, and then I know I can get into it faster by telling them, look, we'll take 1,000 stems, 1,000 bunches, whatever it is, because I know we can fulfill that commitment. But if we don't know, we shouldn't be the last ones to know. We should be the first ones. There's so many things you guys are throwing away because they don't fit into a color category. And that might be the one thing that a consumer wants. And, everything else everybody already said before. So, but I would say this Raffine also is a new filler. It's can't just stay with carnations anymore. It's in bouquets. It should be with roses. I've seen absolutely gorgeous roses and Raffine together. It's the new filler, and we need to start getting it out there on Pinterest or Facebook or whatever, so that people see what they can buy. There's no knowledge out there unless they happen by the supermarket and see it on a shelf.
I agree that really trying to make sure that everyone, as far as the breeder, the grower, and the buyer, have these strong conversations and are able to connect and really share. Everyone has a piece here, but we're only as strong as everybody working together. So I definitely see that there's a big opportunity for the industry to really share more of their insights and experiences they're having. So now let's see if we can go and look a little bit like what are the strengths and the added value that we see from carnations that really we need to expand on to our consumers. So Deb, what would you say as far as the big attributes or the things that we should really make sure our consumers are well aware about this product?
Is that Deb or Debora Steier?
Yeah, Deb Zoellick.
Thank you. I don't want to compete with that woman. It's big. It's a big competition. So telling them the story of the value. I mean, buying flowers, most people expect they're going to last 3 to 5 days. If we can get people to realize they last 7, 10, 14 days, that's a value. That's going to make people want to buy flowers more often. So let's tell the story about, first of all, what variety you're buying. It doesn't have to be the exact name of that particular carnation, but Raffines, put them into like some kind of category so people understand what they're looking at and they can get more familiar with them. But yeah, we've got to tell them the story. That was already said before, but it's pretty important.
Thank you. So let's see, Erin, what would you think what's the big attributes or the strengths that are added value that we see from this product that we really need to make sure consumers are aware of?
I think Deb used the word value, which I mean, clearly that's what consumers purchase with a value to them. I think what's important is that we realize everybody's value is a little different. So if we're looking at an inexpensive carnation bunch, that might be the value that it lasts up to 14 days. While for others, it might be a value of texture, new colors, scents, things that maybe we haven't promoted in the past. So I think it's really about understanding which consumer you're targeting with your item, and really focusing on the value of that, because there are so many different things. Some of the unique color combinations you're not going to find in another flower. So how do you promote that if that's the consumer you're going after? Are you looking to capture a younger audience? What does that look like? So price, value just comes in so many different areas, whether it's price, longevity, scent, color. How do we make sure we're targeting it right and really focusing on the consumer's needs?
Thank you, Erin. So David, what would you say? What would your kind of message out to the consumer about this product be?
Well, clearly the strength of the carnation is they're extremely long lasting, but that could also be its Achilles heel. We've run into a paradox recently in San Francisco where a lot of organic flower growers were looking for someone to sell their flowers, and we offered to take them on, and it's incredible. The amount of people who buy the locally produced organic flowers, even though they know they have a short vase life, it's quite amazing. I mean, with the proper control, you can make a carnation last up to 2 months in dry storage and then going into water. But then we get into an issue, and I see later on in the questions, what are millennials valuing? I mean, is it fresh if it's 2 months old? I don't know. They act differently, but obviously somewhere in between there is the vitality of a carnation. We can get it here and make it, but the education, because if we continue on the current cutting points, we need to tell the customer, listen, it's really going to be ready in about 8 days from now for you to display properly. Because when they come in, I mean, it's gotten really tight now. They're all petals up. You used to have 1 or 2 petals down, and now they're quite tight. So there's got to be somewhere in between, where we say between longevity and freshness is what I mean, and that's the value, certainly.
Thank you, David. So Sarah, what are your thoughts here? What do you think consumers would really need to hear to really get them more aligned with our product?
All right, so David was spot on with it, saying that people, especially in the event world, they're looking at those short-lasting flowers as like the premium, that thing you can't have. So I think that could be part of when you have these flowers that will last so long, they become less valuable. But anyway, that was just kind of me connecting with David. That was not my thought on this, though. So I don't think the consumers have to hear anything. I think they have to see. And it was Erin who said it really best with the colors and the textures. I honestly, she held up a bouquet, one of you held up a bouquet that had all these purpley tones. Actually, David, I see it behind you. Mm-hmm. If that's all Dianthus, that blows my mind. So if our industry, the event industry, can see the vast color options and the texture options, I think that's game changing right there. I don't know for the event world, we don't generally buy on scent unless we're buying a few things for bridal bouquets, but for large scale installation work, we don't buy on scent. And I don't know that the event florist is looking for the long lasting either, because they're getting flowers in on Tuesday or Wednesday, they're designing them, and they're out the door on Saturday. And as much as we love flowers, we never want to see them again after Sunday. So the long lasting, I don't think would be a selling topic for the event industry. Now, the stays well out of water, that's a selling point.
Thank you, Sarah. That's very perceptive. Debora Steier, what's your thoughts here around what we could really identify as the strengths and the added values that Carnations would bring to consumers?
I think we need to talk, everybody, Erin said it best, I think we talk about value, and the value is different for everybody. But the one thing that I haven't heard anybody touch on is about the texture piece. That is all the buzzword in design work now. It's all about texture. It's all about texture. And Carnations relatives all have that texture. So the overall campaign of the value, plus it's offering an answer to current design trends with the texture, and then the messaging to the consumer, right? You know, I know that it's different in the event world, but in the grocery business, if you're selling flowers and you're telling the story of this flower, we guarantee it's going to last 14 days or 21 days. That is a big selling point, because here's the deal. They're not afraid to try it because they know they're going to get a good experience. Oftentimes in the grocery industry, the consumer is afraid to try a specific brand because they don't know how to take care of it. They don't know how long it's going to last. But if we're telling them this flower will last you 14 days, 21 days, whatever that message is that we give out there, now we've got them trying carnations again and getting hooked up.
Very much. I think you're right spot on there, Deborah. So Andres, any last thoughts around where you see the strengths and the added value that we bring from Carnations and get the consumers really to experience this?
Well, you know, I think vase life is a huge argument, depending on where you are in the industry. A long time ago, the British importers, they had something like the Pepsi challenge, where they would challenge with vase, duration to other flowers, the longevity of carnations. And I think that was a campaign that was cleverly done, but they were exploiting just that one asset of carnations. I don't know. I think carnations and spray carnations and the Dianthus family, with the texture and with everything, is just versatile.
Oh, thank you. So during the pandemic, we've really seen a lot of consumer behaviors had to change, and certainly with people to stay home, they were focused so much more on their mental and physical well-being. So how do you think Dianthus and Carnations can take advantage of this? So as we start to come out of the pandemic, they're still saying that consumers are going to be, still have some time at home, as well as they are still going to be looking and paying close attention to their physical and mental well-being. So how do we take Carnations and Dianthus and try to take advantage of this new trend or this new consumer behavior we're seeing? So let's start with David. Did you have any thoughts around this? If there's a way that we can take advantage of this trend?
To me, there's going to have to be drastic changes. That was my one thought, but to go beyond that, I really don't have a comment on that.
Okay, thank you. Debora Steier, any thoughts on that? Is there ways that we can take advantage of this?
Absolutely. I think that the trend that will remain for many, many years to come is the health piece. The focus on health is going to be a very big focus in our world, even more so than it was before coming out of COVID. So you've got the emotional and the physical facts of flowers in particular, people's lives. We've got all these studies, and we've done as an industry such a terribly poor job of sharing out to the end consumer all of those benefits of flowers. We keep trying and talking about it, but that real story hasn't reached that end consumer on that. So I think that if you take the approach for any flower, you could go down that path very easily. In addition, I believe because consumers have gotten really used to having flowers in their home and loving having that. And here's the challenge I see when we go back to whatever our norm's going to be forward, is we're not going to be in our homes day in and day out. And so we might be a little reluctant to have flowers as frequently as we have now. But if we've got a flower that lasts as long as carnations do, it gives us the ability to still have flowers in our home. And if we're not going to be there for a day or two, we can still come home to a beautiful experience with the flowers that we have, especially with the Dianthus. So just a couple of ideas on just the trends that are out there. I mean, there's a whole story that we need to be talking about too behind the scenes, and the change in our industry. What we've done for, the environment, what we've done for, the local schools and all things like that the industry has done as a whole, that could be told a story that would capitalize on all of those things that are coming out of COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a lot of that research that could be reused to really help with the messaging. So Sarah, any thoughts from you around this trend that we're seeing, how consumers are really focusing on their mental and physical well-being, and how Dianthus or Carnations could work on that.
What I've seen is where people are really seeking joy right now. And I feel like as a lot of people are talking about healing, and what I'm seeing is people are just looking for happiness. They're looking to see things that bring joy. And I think that opens a good opportunity for Carnations. Again, so if they last so long at home, just finding a way, and this is more on the retail side, to connect the consumer with this flower and show them how much joy there is in arranging this bouquet and having it in your home. So I am not an expert in retail at all, so I'm not going to give you guys advice. But I know when I walk into the store, so I buy flowers everywhere. I am that girl. Like, I go to Walmart, I go to Safeway, I go to wherever else I go. Clearly that's where I go. But I walk in, and my husband will tell you, I walk out with a bunch of flowers pretty much every time. And sometimes that means I have red, white, and blue carnations and sparkly things and green dyed button mums in there. And I don't even care, because I just want flowers. And part of the reason I do that is because it hits me right when I walk into the store, and it usually hits me when I'm walking out. So if there's a way that we could encourage people, not even encourage them, is show them that, okay, here is your bunch that you're bringing home with you, and here's how you create it, here's how you design it. I don't have an answer for that. But I think if I went into a store and I wasn't a normal florist that buys flowers everywhere, which is not even normal, then if I walked in and there was either someone showing me or something showing me how to create this and how much joy it brought into my home, I feel like there'd be no way I couldn't walk out of the store with it. Yeah. I want that in my home and my life.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there, Sarah. It is, that flower really does put a smile on the face. So Erin, what's your thoughts? Do you see this trend continuing as far as people being focused on the health and well-being, and how does the Dianthus and Carnations fit to that?
Becky, you know I do. My job. Deb pointed out the health benefits. Sarah talked about the joy. Those are two key words for me that I think also kind of roll into the word I'll use, which is connect. I think people want to connect in a way they never have before. We didn't get to this year. So I think as things begin to open up and become a little more, as cautious as I think most people are, also just needing a way to connect. So I know for myself, I'm like Sarah. I know I'm a flower person. Most people probably dismiss it as, yeah, you're just a flower person. But I buy flowers every single week. And I also share that joy with my friends. So I think as soon as we get consumers used to and enjoying flowers in their life, what we'll see is this effect of they want to share that with others even more so. And I know we've been a gift-giving industry, as a whole, but I think there is a difference between gift-giving and sharing joy. Just, I'm not talking about a birthday or an actual celebration. I'm just talking about connecting. Just, I wanted to share these beautiful flowers with you. And I think the way Dianthus could really play a role in that, because I think industry-wide, right? I don't think it's specific to a variety. But I think the Dianthus does give us that way that it's less risky to the consumer. If they trust that they'll last a long time, I feel comfortable using it, I understand how I could design with it in a very simple way. Because a lot of times I'll tell people, no, this is really easy. And they'll go, you're a flower person. Of course it's easy for you. But I think there's some things like that bouquet I showed earlier, I did just cut and drop that into the vase. I really didn't do it. I'd love to say it was my amazing design ability, but hopefully our teams are partnering and collaborating on great designs that can be easily enjoyed by a consumer, so that they do have a great experience. Because at the end of the day, whether, no matter what part of the industry you're in, if the consumer has a great experience, that's going to help us all win. Whether they're shopping at my store, we all want to sell flowers so people enjoy them and can really share in that joy with their friends and family. So I think COVID's done a job on us all this year mentally, and wanting to reconnect with people is going to be, something we're going to see for years to come. So really hopeful for what that does for our industry.
And certainly the point of sales data that PMA's been collecting has demonstrated that consumers have really stepped up and have really been purchasing flowers since practically Mother's Day over the last, 10 months. So we have certainly seen how they connected on the floral side. So Deb Zoellick, what's your thoughts as far as, are there certain things that Dianthus and Carnations provide to help us leverage this trend on people buying flowers?
Yeah, trust. That was a good word that Erin used. More and more people are shopping online, picking up their groceries, having them delivered, but floral sales are still up. So one of the things I think that's really important is that there's trust that the flowers they buy are going to last, that they're going to get a good value. Walmart value is really, really important. We're not an event planner or anything like that. We just want to make sure we just keep selling flowers. So having something like Dianthus in your bouquet or as a consumer bunch really instills a lot of trust in our customers. And it's one of the things that I love to get when I'm buying my groceries online. It doesn't matter what color it is, it's still going to be making my house look nicer. And I can use some of that looking better.
I'm with you there. Bring that nice, pretty spotlight to my Well, thank you, Debbie. So, Andrés, any last thoughts around this trend that we see coming from the pandemic and how Carnations can help us continue this?
Oh, I think Debbie, Erin, and Deborah and Sarah were very eloquent. I mean, and it's all been said. They're just fantastic for the spirit, and that's what we need now.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to move to a little something different now. Next question is about selling carnations by a variety name. Do we think this could something that consumers would latch onto and something we should explore? So let's start with Andrés, since you're a grower there, and what's your thoughts around trying to sell carnations by variety name?
Well, the truth of the matter is that we sell the majority of our orders are by name. I mean, our customers are not saying, okay, put a few mixture of colors there and make it flashy and don't repeat the same bunch twice. No, people are saying going specific, and people get mad when you don't have the variety. So it's this trend has been going on for quite some time. There are countries where that's the only way to sell the varieties by variety names.
Do you think it can go down to the consumer as well, or do you think that's a barrier?
Well, I don't know if with the basic colors. I mean, red, white, and pink for some people will be very hard to notice between a light pink and milder pink and a darker pink. Mm-hmm. Red, we have 10 varieties of red or 15 varieties of red, and to them it's going to be red. But on the novelty varieties, on the different items, on the Dianthus, on the sparge, on the bowls, on the chocolates, and all those things, I think variety names can be very useful.
So from your perspective, does it help as far as the marketing of it, or is it just that it would help more from understanding the color kind of nuances and those type of things? Well,
I mean, it's hard for me to imagine a day when someone walks into a mass market chain and says, I would like 2 bunches of Chateau and 2 of Radio Dissolve, for instance. Mm-hmm. But I think it helps. It helps people know what they, I mean, the more information you give them, the better. Maybe some consumers are very interested in what they're buying, and some people are really into flowers, and they want to know what they're getting.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So Sarah, what's your thoughts around trying to sell by variety name as versus just I want a red?
So in the event world, we as designers, we pride ourselves of knowing all of these behind the scene things about flowers so we can do our job even better. It is like the best knowledge when you know variety names and you can share by name what types of flowers you're using. So just on Instagram alone, I get questions almost every single day, multiple times a day, about what flower I use in this picture, what flower I use in this video. And I need to be able to give them the names. If I just say that was a pink rose or a pink carnation, sorry. If I just say that was a pink carnation, they're like, they want more. They want to know that was the pink aster of the Lady Mountain, whatever. They want a specific name. And just in the course of this conversation, I think that honestly, if you took 3 to 4 carnations and trended 3 to 4 carnations, took a real mass on that, you're going to see the sales of those carnations picked up over retail and event altogether, because we're all looking at the same things. We're all looking at visually the same things. Even though the people in the retail store may not know it's Chateau whatever, they will recognize, oh, I've been seeing this all over the place. I have to have it. So that's my thought.
Okay, thank you. Debora Steier, what's your thoughts around, from your perspective of trying to get more of the variety name out there?
I think Sarah is spot on. I think it becomes a fun experience for the end consumer. I think they love having that knowledge. We've done it with roses over the years, and customers will come to us. Now, you know, this is where Andrés is correct. I don't envision them coming in and say, I want Purple Majesty, Carnation, whatever. But what it does do is it gives them an empowerment. And when they feel like they know something, they've got knowledge, they're going to come back to it time and time again. And in addition, they share it with their friends. Did you know I've got this Purple Majesty Carnation at Albertsons store, and it lasted me 13 weeks. You need to go down there. They've got the names right on the packages. It becomes a silent seller for you. It isn't an aggressive seller. So I think it's a great idea. Fantastic idea.
Erin, what's your thoughts? How do you see variety playing into the marketing of Dianthus and Carnations?
Oh, I'm going to be honest. I'm listening to everybody's and I'm kind of torn. I think to the point of Deborah and Sarah, it's great knowledge, right? Like the more knowledge, the better. I think it's exciting for consumers to feel like they're a part of it. But on the flip side, they rarely read things. So I get really hung up on, you know, we want to create great signage, but you'll have somebody standing right in front of a sign and not be reading it. So it's kind of, I think it can't be just one thing, right? It's not just putting a sticker on the package. It has to be part of a bigger marketing concept that you're willing to commit to. Because otherwise, it's probably more of that silent. It's there for those who are interested. Great. They're going to get really excited about it. But if you really lean into it and say, we're going to put it on the packaging, we're going to have a social media blast that talks about the varieties and what's cool about this new variety and color, then you start to gain, you know, that I want to be an expert. You know, and I don't think we as an industry have leaned into social media enough. I know I follow Sarah on social media. I follow every flower person I can find. And there's just not a whole lot of content. I go on TikTok and I find very few florists. And I think as an industry, we need to decide if that's the direction we want to go, which I think is a great direction. I think the more knowledge, the better. I think the more people trust and understand flowers, the more they'll use them in their life. But we've really got to lean in and commit to that on not just signs in stores, stickers on packages, and then we need to educate our own florists, right? So do they know what the varieties are? But beyond that, it's taking it that next step of, you know, is it QR codes? Is it social media blasts? Whatever it is to kind of finish off that story for those who aren't going to read the packaging and aren't going to pay attention. And at the end of the day, the visual is what's going to catch their eye. So if it's something new and exciting, that's how we'll get them hooked. So how do you play in all of those areas to tell the whole story? So to me, it's not just one yes or no. It's kind of yes if you're going to lean into all areas.
Absolutely. I mean, it is one of those, it has to be more of a comprehensive instead of just a one-off kind of strategy there. Deb Zoellick, did you have any thoughts around trying to market based on a variety name?
I don't think we need to get into the exact variety name, although I do want to know how Debora Steier gets carnations to last 13 weeks. I want those. She didn't mean weeks, but I was like, oh my God, she's getting stuff I'm not. But there is some value in knowing what it is you're buying. Like this Raffine that I have, I would love to know what that is. And I know a little bit about flowers. But I don't know what that is. And it's so different. It just changes as it opens. And that to me is really interesting. There's certain varieties that, yeah, we do need to tell a story of something. Everybody loves a story. So they, you know, if it's even just about the birth of carnations, and like Augusto was saying, it was the first flower, but where it's evolved to, I mean, I don't like flowers. I'm allergic to them. And I have them right here next to me. They made the table where I sit. Big deal. Everybody else said all the other stuff.
Well, that's some really good insight, hopefully for everyone to think about how we move forward on kind of getting the consumer kind of understanding more about the different varieties and latching on to names.
Can I just jump in there?
Yes.
So in our line of work, the names of all flowers are crucial because our customers are pretty much performance driven, and one flower may open quicker than another and they want to use it. And about 2 years ago, we asked all our carnation suppliers to put the name on the sleeve. So when they were purchasing, they would know. And to be honest, a lot of our salespeople aren't up to speed on every single variety. So we've got 2 growers who have seen an uptick in sales. We put they put the name on, only Geoflora and Benita, I can't remember his name. Anyway, just 2 growers out of all the growers we have. They're putting the names on. And this is, for instance, Altamira peach. But right now, the amount of peaches coming in the market, we have Novia, we have Lizzie, we have Caramel, many. And the customer will go, no, I like that because it opened very quickly for me and I was able to present it into my work in a way that is predictable. And that is very important to our customers. And I am sometimes lost as to why growers cannot put a name on. I know they're putting SKUs and barcodes on for the mass markets, and I seem, for the wholesaler, it seems a bit of an affront that we can't get the name so that we can get the preferred variety to our clientele. Names, as Linnea says, without names, we wouldn't have flowers.
Very much. It's definitely is very helpful when you're trying to make sure you get those flowers that have really trended and done well for you in your different events or arrangements or things that you're doing. So before we move on and leave trends, are there any trends out there that any of you would say, oh my gosh, carnations or dianthus could really take advantage or really move this trend or really make sure to connect with that trend? Anything going on out there now that you say carnations are the perfect fit for?
Can I hop in here?
Yes.
So installations are everywhere right now. I'm seeing installations more now than I have ever seen in the event world. Everything from large scale installations to smaller hanging installations. This industry needs to know how great carnations are for that, because that's game changing. That gives you so much more time, and installations suck up a lot of product. My average installation takes anywhere from 1,000 to 4,000 stems just for one. That's a lot of product going into one piece. So if the event industry can find a way to be inspired by carnation, I think you'll see a huge uptake just in that.
How are they using the installation when you talk that way? Is it a backdrop or it's just a focal point or?
Oh, at this point, it's everything.
It's everything.
So weddings have gotten smaller, which this year means people have more money that they can put into flowers because they don't have as many guests, which is great for us, right? And so we're seeing installations over tables, installations for backdrops, installations for ceremony spaces, installations over dance floors. Installation is the trending word in the event world right now.
Okay, well, that's definitely something to think. Like you said, carnations could certainly be a product that could really help in that. That's very, very insightful. Thank you.
And if I could, one more thing. When David just held up that bunch of carnations that had the name on it, that felt premium. I don't know if it was premium, but it kind of looked like it was a garden rose sleeve. And I know me, like I like some luxury things, to be honest. And when I go into the market, if I picked up that sleeve, I would probably buy that bunch because first I know the name and now I could buy it again. I know what to ask for the next time. And it just felt more luxe. So that wasn't your question, but I just had to say it.
Well, thanks.
Okay, I'm going back on mute.
So let's see, Erin, any thoughts from you? Any kind of trends out there that you said, wow, carnations and dianthus could really help to spur or keep this thing going?
Yeah, so I think when you asked that question, Becky, I wanted to pull up a picture from our last fun PMA event in Miami when we did the installation pieces for you. We used a lot of carnations, paved into the designs, and a lot of people said, what is that? Because when they're masked out like that, they don't recognize them as carnations. They just see the texture. So for me, the texture is really going to be the key. And the colors, I think those are the two things that consumers are attracted to right now. And how can we use, for us, I think thinking through, you can do big designs and stuff for consumers, but really, how do we get that everyday purchase? How do we get them in more often, purchasing for themselves or for others, but in a way that they feel luxurious, but it's not costing that, it's not, preemptive to them doing that. A lot of vessels I see hold just very few flowers right now. I know they're all over my house. Unfortunately, none of them are within reach for me to go grab. But every time I bring them into our stores, I'll have people say, well, why are you selling this? It only holds 6 stems of flowers. The point is that that's going to look great on somebody's mantle, and they can put, one bunch of dianthus in that, and it's going to look beautiful. To me, it's how we teach them how to use it, though, because if they don't cut it at the right height for their container, suddenly they've got this long, carnation standing there, and really your intent was for them to cut it very short. I think we take for granted that people know that. I actually told the consumer once, he said, what do you want me to do with this? I said, you cut it. He said, I can do that? Yes, absolutely, you can do that. So it's how do we teach them how to use it so that texture comes through for them so they have a great end experience. Because they just really are a great, whether it's a huge installation you're sitting on your coffee table, they really can transform into something that doesn't look like what we're used to thinking a carnation looks like. So it's really how we're going to teach them to use it.
Yeah, that is a big thing around consumers, that educating how to, what to, the whole nine. You don't need to fear it. So Deborah, what's your thought? Anything from you on what dianthus can do to help keep some trends going?
Yeah, when I think about, the focus on the millennial mom, because the millennials are now moms, and that being our next line of consumers coming up, our big group of it, the buzzwords that are in that group are easy, honest brands, and convenient. And I can't think of a better flower that fits the bill for those attributes that are important to them, and health. Those are all buzzwords around that millennial mom shopper. And this flower and this flower family fits that perfectly, and it fits into that trend. And these millennials also, we talked about, they like everything grandma liked. So now you've hit all of the home runs on promoting something that is on trend right now in our industry.
Thank you. I think you've hit that very well with that age group, that's for sure. Let's see, David, did you have any thoughts around any other trends that this product will work with?
Yeah, I would like to go back to, I think it was Erin. I think carnations in design work, where there's arrangements, bouquet, wedding bouquets especially, I see carnations a bit like hamburger helper. A lot of people want like garden roses, very expensive blooms. I've done an example here. So I've got David Austin Juliets, but I mixed them in with carnations, some sweet peas, and you just get a glorious, glorious bouquet parve. And most people can't even tell they're carnations. And you mix them in with the David Austin roses. It's fabulous. And the cost savings, if this was all garden roses, incredibly, ridiculously expensive. So I think that with good marketing, and going back to what Sarah says, I think influencers are needed by the Colombian flower industry to really put this in front of people who can affect change. Because some people's designs and their Instagram followers, huge followings, and you could probably turn this around pretty quickly if you really wanted. But I still say, two flowers, peonies and carnations, they need 8 days to open. You can't get a peony on a Wednesday and have it in an installation on Friday night. It's not going to happen. Same with carnations. So there is a lot of education there needed to get these things to open. You want them to be like this. And if you leave them in a vase for 8 days without recutting them and changing the water, they're just going to die.
Yeah.
So care, education, influencers, and design, critical, I think. But carnation go a long way to providing economical solutions to what are becoming quite expensive propositions.
Yeah, absolutely. Andres, did you have any last thoughts around the trends that we're experiencing and how carnations can take advantage of that?
I'm actually learning a lot from you guys because I took the liberty to calling many of my fellow growers this past week to see what they thought about this Dianthus Week conversation. And everyone agrees that customers are on us. I mean, we cannot cope with demand. It's something very strange. And this is happening since the end of last year, maybe. I mean, we didn't have a rest in January. We haven't stopped. The market is just asking for carnations. People are loving them, and we need to keep this momentum going.
Absolutely. So as someone told us, we've needed this. We didn't want it to be the pandemic that actually did it, but we certainly have taken advantage of the time that this has all brought to our industry. So as you said, how we all work together to keep that momentum going is going to be our next big challenge that we have to face. I think that Deb Zoellick, did I ask you about if there's any trends that you see carnations and Dianthus can take advantage of?
Yeah, no, you didn't, but I just have a little comment. So in our supermarket, people don't come to buy flowers. I mean, it's not, unless it's a holiday, it's not the first thing on their mind. They want to get their meat, potatoes, whatever. So our floral displays can be a little hard to find, I will be honest to say. Sometimes I go in and ask, and they don't even know what flowers. I know we have them somewhere. When they do see that display, it's going to be the bright, contrasting colors that are going to get people's attention. So Walmart is one for that purpose. We're not really interested in pastels. So the breeders and growers need to know what it is we're looking for so that we can get exactly what we want. After Mother's Day, we plan on telling people exactly the volumes we want and the colors so that they can plan out these major holidays, because it's not pastels anymore for us. Sorry, it's just not. I saw a lot of it in these breeder shows, and I'm a little blunt, so I go, okay, next, because I'm just not interested in those pastels.
Well,
I just wanted to say to that, Deborah, bright colors we are seeing in fashion, we're seeing in events. Like, I think you're on it with bright colors. Okay, that's it.
Are you saying that Walmart's on trend? Oh yeah,
totally. And I've been looking forward to those bright color bouquets so I could buy them.
Well, and I think that goes back to our earlier comment, all about how, the end buyers, event planners, everyone has to be connected to a breeder to make sure they understand these are the trends, these are what's happening, and making sure the growers are really on board, because at the end of the day, it's all that information that has to be shared across our supply chain so that everyone kind of knows what the consumer's doing, what's the trends. And as they always say, the consumer doesn't know what they want until we give it to them. So that's the other thing we all have to be aware of. So a lot of things have to happen, collaboration to really make sure we get to that end game. So Debora Steier already kind of answered about the millennials and that generation. So Sarah, what's your thoughts around how do we really connect with the millennials and Gen Z?
You have to entertain them. So this is not a generation that you can just throw pretty pictures. Instagram has been my primary social media source, and I have recently jumped into figuring out TikTok and Reels and some of the other video-centric social media apps. In order to catch the attention of these younger generations, you have to be moving and give some energy. It can't just be flat, stagnant. It can't just be all perfectly pretty. They want to be entertaining. That can be entertaining with storytelling. It can be entertaining with comedy. It can be entertaining with how-tos. I post a lot of time lapses. They take me no time. I'm doing the work anyway. I just put a video up there, and these videos will sometimes get 100, 200,000 interactions in the course of a week. That's incredible. So if you want to connect with that audience, you really have to do it with entertainment.
Yeah. Like you said, they really want to have some kind of role. It can't be static, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. Very much. Very much. Erin, what's your thoughts around the millennials or the Gen Z? Any thoughts around how we connect with them with carnations and Dianthus? I'm already on the next week 35.
Sorry about that, Becky. You'll be okay. We're friends, I'm sure. I think Sarah touched on what she said. She's even learning. I think part of it is all of us understanding it's not us. I was always the young one in the group, and now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait, I'm not the young one anymore. Just accepting that there's an audience that's different than us, that thinks differently. I have 4 sons that fall in that age group, and I can tell you they give flowers. So for us to say, and obviously they were raised right, so partially my doing, but they love to give flowers to people, and they find unique things about them to get. They love the story behind it. It's to Sarah's point, they want to be entertained. It's not just it's a pretty flower. It's where it's from. It's color, it's something different and unique. But then also the social media aspect, I just recently started going on TikTok and kind of playing with what does that look like. I posted my first video, of course, about flowers, but we're just not being represented there. And if we're not where they are, we're gonna miss the conversation. So as much as some of us might be like, look, it's not my thing, fine, find somebody on your team that it is their thing and let them run with it because it's going to be important in the future. I think COVID just started, people were at home more and we started seeing people, older people being on TikTok and stuff. We're starting to get engaged, but if we're not ready for it, it's going to pass us by. So I think finding the right person on your team that can really tap into that and tell those stories is going to be key to the success with that generation.
Very much so. Very much so. Let's see, Deb Zoellick, what's your thoughts around the Generation Z and millennials?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know that. I don't know what they want to do. I don't know what they like. I know that everybody will tell you with their dollar. So I am more than happy to collaborate with a breeder, with a grower, and test it and find out what does work, because we can do UPCs by different colors, different varieties. what I like, and this is a perfect example, the buyers all used to say, oh, I don't like that for a bouquet or whatever. And then I would just shrug my shoulders and, but then they started doing UPC data and they found out what people wanted and it wasn't what they liked. So give them what they want, but there's ways to test this stuff. And please, I would be more than happy to do that with something that's really wow and different.
Yep, absolutely. Like you said, it's really being able to take that data and see what you need to do. Very nice. Let's see, David, any thoughts around the millennials? Or
the millennials, younger generations, much younger. I think the pandemic did start one trend where it really came to the forefront. It was been going on for a long time, but the explosion of the flower farms around the United States, I think, is really driving the sort of chaotic cacophony of exploding colors, because zinnias come in purples, lavenders, oranges, yellows, marigolds in bright colors, delphiniums in blues, and these, what would be sort of cottage garden flowers, they seem to represent a connection to nature. So I think the more bucolic designs, foxgloves, ranunculus, the butterfly ranunculus, these gently, very romantic flowers, but sort of seeming natural and from the garden, I think is going to be a big trend. And I would have to say that bright colors in the house is part of what illuminates a room, for sure.
Very much
so. I can see that going forward, for sure.
Okay, so the one last trend we want to kind of talk about is we have seen, and certainly David just alluded to it, is that sustainability or going green or the locally grown or those that kind of trend around that. How do you see Dianthus and Carnations fitting into that, or you don't? Let's start with Debora Steier. How do you see that our product here fitting into that trend around sustainability or local or going green?
Oh, well, obviously, when you think about what's happened in our industry as a whole, carnations are a big part of that because they're a big part of our industry. It's all about, we've gotten much better as an industry about being responsible. Rainforest certifications are the norm now. That didn't used to be the case. All of those certifications play into telling the end consumer that we are being responsible with the products that we grow. I know there was a big release recently about the amount of waste that happens in the floral industry. That was a bunch of negative campaign, but what we didn't do, what we weren't able to do, is we didn't come back with all of the great things that we've been able to do. So I think telling that story, and a certification certainly is a great way to tell it easily to consumers, right? So I know Erin said not just the sticker, but the whole campaign that goes behind it, explaining to them what rainforest certification is. It's making sure that you're taking care of the water. It's making sure you're taking care of the land. It's making sure you're taking care of your associates that are working there, and education, and lots of great things that go into that type of certification program. And I think if we start telling that story through a simple seal, the frog seal means something to the end consumer. They understand that a little bit more. Maybe they don't know all of the components of it, and we can tell that story. But utilizing what we're already doing and just telling that story is going to be vitally important for the environmental.
Thank you. I absolutely. I think it goes back to, like you just said, being able to get that information out. We're already doing the practices. So, Erin, anything from your perspective as far as how we connect around sustainability?
I mean, obviously, Deborah said it with stories. I've been saying stories this whole time. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but telling the story of our growers is something I think we've just never done a good job of. We start to, and then, the whole campaign of buy flowers, not toilet paper, to me was huge because it connected the farms at the beginning of the pandemic. And I had friends that were like commenting, like, I had no idea. I saw these flowers thrown away, how sad. And it was like, it was like they'd never seen anything that we do at farm level before. So really teaching them about what happens at the farm level, To Deborah's point, not just the we're doing for sustainability, but taking care of the workers, taking care of our partners, working together, to create a better world. I think that's key, and not forgetting the packaging side of it. There's a lot of things we still need to figure out as an industry. Plastic is a big part of our industry, but how does that work in a sustainable world? What's the solution? I don't have it. If I had it, I'd already be doing it. But what does that look like, and how do we work together to help give people instructions on, if it is recyclable, how do they recycle it? If it is biodegradable, what does that mean for them? But it's all part of that story, right? So it's got to be part of a bigger marketing campaign, I think. And when I say marketing, I don't mean like selling. I just mean telling the story.
Right. Getting the information out.
Yep.
So Sarah, what's your thoughts as far as from your perception around how the floral industry, as well as the particular products of Carnations and Dianthus, take advantage of this trend around sustainability?
So I see a couple things within the wedding and the event world. Many clients will come in and they do ask about sustainability. It is definitely on the forefront of our consumers' mind. But that seems, and this is going to sound terrible, and I don't want to come off like this, but it seems like so quickly they will let that sustainability go as soon as we start talking about dollars and about availability. So if I want all my flowers local, like, I know they don't last as long, even though I think I said at the beginning of this, longevity isn't that important in the event world. There is some importance because if I buy everything local, I know I've only got 3 to 5 days. So I got to get cracking when I get those flowers. So I know I'm going to have to buy double the amount of flowers in order to achieve my client's look, which means I'm going to have to charge double for the same exact look. So unfortunately, once my consumer starts to get the reality of what this looks like, they are then completely comfortable. And I don't know how to fix that part, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
So
it's not the sole driving force, but it can be a help as far as marketing, right?
Yes. So a lot of times what I will do is, I'll talk to the client how we're going to bring most of your flowers in. Most of your wholesale flowers are going to come in, and they do come in from multiple countries. And we will get some of your gems, some of those little special flowers. We'll get those locally and have them in your bouquet. Have them in the bouquet, or have them somewhere just very special for them. But the majority of the farms, they're not going to have the quantities that we need in the event world, and they're just not going to have the longevity. So,
well, thank you. Deb Zoellick, anything from your perspective about sustainability and how Carnations can jump on the trend?
I think that everybody felt good when they had a little triangle with a number in it on the sleeve, but that didn't really tell anybody how to recycle it.
Right.
I know that's a driver at Walmart. Everything has to say how it's going to be recycled, how to do it correctly. But there are some really good stories out there already. There was a farm I went to. They actually take their excess stems and carnations and alstroemeria, and they crush them so much they can make a fiber of it, and it's part of a box now. So there's stories out there, there's things you can do, not just compost everything. There's other uses. So we just have to find those stories and get them out there. Everybody likes the feel good when you see the worker that picked it and all the process through, and there's a face. So if we can get to that point where we're actually recognizing these workers, that's a big deal. I know it's a lot to put on a sleeve, but I did it with a campaign for African flowers with a person on the sleeve, and people loved it.
Very interesting. Andrés, any thoughts from you as far as the grower around sustainability and how that plays into Carnations?
I think that sustainability, social responsibility, being green or having your green credentials is really important. I mean, we get visits by customers from all over the world, and they want to establish trust, and they want to see that you're doing things right, not only for your community, but with your resources and with your with your environment. That's just very simple. And the new consumers are more aware of that, and are more demanding on those green credentials. So I think the vast majority of the Colombian growers that are in business are very responsible and do a lot to keep those green credentials, um, ready, because it's just, there's no choice about it. You have to. This is the new world, and people expect from you not just to be serious, to have a consistent product, to have as David says, the correct opening stage, but they want you to have green credentials and do your part. I mean, we all as a society must. That's as simple as that.
Yep, very much, very much. David, any thoughts from you on how sustainability and Carnations, Dianthus could work together?
I'm not sure about sustainability. Unfortunately, all farms, including organic farms, have to use plastic. I'm hoping, that the molecular science will get going, because the hydrocarbons that make up petroleum are the same molecules that make up carbohydrates. So they need to get cracking. I know they're working on it, but we need to. But I guess the big thing coming, and we are in a global climate crisis, or we're heading into any minute now, that I think carnations from Colombia will probably all be coming by boat within a couple of years. And there, the longevity is going to be key, because I think of all the flowers that can be imported by boat, that is going to be have no problem. And a reduced carbon footprint is in everybody's interest. I see air shipments going down. I think within 5 years, it's going to be prohibitively expensive to go by air, pretty much for all flowers. So I'm optimistic with carnations. I do see a bright future. I would like to get more connection with the breeders, vis-a-vis varieties in the future. But yeah, I think the future looks bright for carnations.
I absolutely agree with that. So we've went through all the questions, and we have a few minutes here. So I did want to just kind of throw it out and open it up. So are there any last kind of comments, thoughts, or references that you would like to share with the breeder community about carnations or dianthus? So let's start with Sarah. So if you have the ears of the breeders right now, what would you want to tell them? What would you want to share?
I don't have anything to tell them or share, but I want to know where I get my hands on these creative varieties, and how do I know what these beautiful textures and colors are? Because if I don't know, I know a lot of other designers don't know either.
Yep. So I know Andres will be able to follow up with you and show you all the websites and everything with all the
Count in for sure.
So you can see all the different varieties and types that are there. Let's see, David, any thoughts or comments you would share with the breeders? Anything would you like to, since you have their ear right now?
Okay, let's see. Carnations are a bit of a dilemma. Either they're too stiff and really don't lend themselves to graceful design. So then you have to, like Erin says, is cut them short and put them low. But I've seen some varieties coming in now. This is Copper Ecstasies. Really, the supermarket would grade this out as a national or a standard. It shouldn't be shipped. But I like it. I think designers like it because it has action. It has arching stems, and it's very attractive flower. But this isn't the rule for carnations. Generally, they're pretty rigid. So I would like to see either shorter stems and maybe with a PGR, and make the flowers bigger and more significant, or else go for something that is more graceful. But right now, I think we're in the middle ground where it's not one or the other. And with regard to colors and textures, I haven't seen anything that even resembles what I would call a pink carnation since Chinera, which was in about 1989. which is the very deeply cut pinked edge on carnations.
And Selecta used to be.
Yes, and I don't see and no fragrance, unfortunately. So we'd like to address those, and I think we need more neutral colors. So definitely, I would like to contact some breeders as well.
Thank you, David. Erin, any kind of thoughts or references or insights you'd like to share too with the breeders?
Okay. Do not give up on the pastels that are saturated. I heard somebody say earlier we don't like pastels. I think tonal is so important. So not just thinking of a color as, you know, a pale pink, but how does it play in the palette of pink or purple, as I just used my bouquet as an example. I think working together, partnerships is going to be key. So working together with your growers and your end consumer retailers, whether that's wholesale or you know, those of us in the florist, you know, in the mass market. And don't forget that a lot of us mass market are doing more than just selling bunches of flowers. So we are in the event space as well. And I think we'll be a good resource for you to kind of talk to you about what our consumers are asking for. But I think there's nothing but upside for our industry in the coming years coming out of this pandemic, and look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, Erin. Debora Steier, any comments you would like to share to the breeders?
Yeah, let's talk. That's what mine is. Let's talk directly. I think it's really important. I mean, obviously my growers do a great job, and I'm going to rely on them for whether or not what I request is feasible. But I want that communication open directly with the breeders. I want to understand what is possible, and maybe push them into things that they hadn't thought about, just like David and Sarah talked about. Is, you know, there's some really great trends are out there, and carnations can easily play into that. And I think that there's room for all. Yes, obviously bright colors sell very well, but I think you can do bright with pastels paired to it, like Erin said, and be tonal and have place for all of those. So I want to talk to you. So call me. That's my call out.
Deb Zoellick, comments from you that you'd like to share with the breeders?
I don't know if you can read that call. So you guys, this is great. It's just that the growers and the breeders are like this connection, and you're leaving us all out. So the growers went through and saw all the different breeds, and you really need to include us. Mm-hmm. And I would like to even be there before the growers, because you're eliminating things that we might want. And I've seen this so many times where it's not quite pink, it's not quite purple. Oh, let's just get rid of it, throw it out. Yeah, let us help you to increase your sales and all the way through. So don't forget us.
So Andrés, what's been the surprise for you today, hearing some of the end people who connect with consumers? What's been the aha for you?
Oh, I'm walking away with a mandate from you guys. I mean, we need to communicate. I mean, if people only knew how hard it is to grow, all the effort that goes behind, all the thousands of workers that wake up at 4 a.m. every day to go to the farms, if people only knew all the effort that takes to develop all these varieties, I mean, I'm sure people would be willing to pay a higher price even. So I think we have to unite with the breeders, with you guys, and with the other growers of the Dianthus community and invest in this. We need to communicate. We need to tell people that this is an amazing product and that it can go beyond. And then we can have a huge problem, which is that there won't be enough flowers.
There you go.
We all want that problem.
That's what we're striving for, huh? Okay, well, I think the only thing last question then, and this was just me listening to all of you. The common thread that came through was about how we need to get more information out to consumers, whether it's the storytelling or whether it's information, variety. I mean, there's just seems like there's a vast amount to try to get connected with consumers. I guess my big question for all of you is your thoughts around the who and the how. do you see something like this taking place? And anybody want to start? I hate to, this is all throwing it at you willy-nilly and not having time to think about it, but I think this seems like the big thing we all have to figure out.
I'll go willy-nilly. It's right up my alley, Becky. I got you. I would say everyone. So the who and the how is to me now is a prime time consumer. You know, we've never had demand like we have now, so now's the time for us to get out there. But I think we all own a part of it. Like, if we're not telling the story, I tease my other flower friends, if you're not posting pictures of your flowers you purchased, shame on you. We all need to share the joy of flowers with people through social media and any possible way we can. And I think, you know, obviously working together, we can create a much more powerful, united, you know, I brought up the buy flowers, not toilet paper. I don't know who started that, but they should be praised because it was brilliant. But we need those kinds of things so we can all jump on board and share. And I think that for those of us who aren't on social media, get on social media, because it's where we're going to share this message, and it's how we're going to get that message out quickly to people. And speed equals power in this. I think we're in the perfect environment to take advantage of it, and we need to do it, you know, sooner than later.
Absolutely. Debora Steier.
Yeah, you knew I want to say something here.
Yeah.
It has to start somewhere. And all too often, the answer has been the retailer needs to do it. I'm going to tell you, we don't always have the resources to do it. We're going to jump on any bandwagon that started out there. So there actually needs to be an organized attempt at doing this through organizations like we're doing today, through the Dianthus Week, through Chrysanthemum Week, through those different things that we are all having these bigger conversations in. We need to come together and collectively decide on what the message is, because if we go all out there and put all these different messages out there, it doesn't have the weight behind it. It doesn't have the, I always think of the Grape Commission and how good they did, or the Idaho Potato Commission, right? You talk about being from Idaho and the first thing they say is, oh, potatoes, right? That type of campaign is really what we need around not just Dianthus, but flowers in general. And I know Becky doesn't like it when I say this, but I think we need an organization like PMA to maybe develop the message, and then we can each come away with how we promote that message, so that we have an organized campaign that the message developed. PMA may not be the distributor of that, other than to us to utilize it as an industry. And then each of us, through social media, through advertising campaigns, through paying a influencer to in-store POS, we can all take part in that campaign, and it's unified. So lots to be able to do, I think.
Absolutely.
Can I piggyback off that?
David, did you have some comments around how or what we can do to try to educate our consumers?
I do, but Sarah, do you want to say something?
I do.
Yeah.
So I love that Deborah just, focused in on, it needs to be a focus. It can't be about everything. Like, we need to have a unified kind of front on this. And I think that kind of comes back to what I talked about earlier, when, if 3 or 4 varieties of carnations can be trended. So I work with a number of companies on these trending to get products to trend. And if you try to talk about every flower and all the carnations, it gets lost. But if you take just a few and make them really popular, then that will trickle down. Not everyone's going to buy the really popular, but now you have the attention, and they're going to look for other varieties. And maybe that one Chateau carnation that they were dreaming about wasn't available at Walmart, but there was another bunch of carnations, or wasn't available at Albertsons, but there's another bunch of carnations. So just by taking a few of the items within the entire wealth of carnation world, that will help it will help everyone by just focusing on a couple.
Yep, absolutely. You don't want the fire hose.
Right. And honestly, via social media, I think even the people that are not on social media, they often are interacting with people that is where they get a lot of their influence from. So that would be the way. I can't even think of another way that would have that much impact.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you, Sarah. David, any thoughts?
Well, I want to go to the breeders before Deborah does. And because part of really getting a buzz is you need to do something that's somewhat elite and focused, and maybe at a higher level, and then you have a trickle down. If it automatically goes into the mass market first, how is the price going to go up? I don't know, because gravity keeps pulling it down. You know, dollars per square foot keeps pulling it down. So I think part of any strategy is designers, event planners, let's start with a controlled amount of X new carnation, get the hype, and then it can make it popular, make it so popular the prices go up, and then slowly release it out to bigger markets. I'm speaking, of course, in a very self-interested way, but you know, it is part of, you know, I introduced garden roses to the rose growers in Ecuador. They told me I'm nuts. But I kept going. I had to take my own plants to Ecuador and have them planted. And today, that whole niche has exploded. And the prices have stayed pretty high because it came in a very small, controlled way and just grew slowly and slowly. I see now they're getting more and more into the marketplace. I do see them in Whole Foods. But it's, you know, I think you have to have a vision and an understanding that we're in a fashion business. We're not part of the produce department.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Deb Zoellick, any last thoughts?
Well, I would say that the breeders and the growers need to know, and I think this should be from every retailer or wholesaler, that there's a partnership. We don't want you to take a chance and lose money. But we will, I know I will, contract grow with you. So it is more of a collaboration. I will buy what we say we're going to buy. And then if it works, you can expand all you want. I don't want an exclusive. I'd like to be first to market, first before Debora Steier. But I definitely think that there's a way to create more excitement if we're part of the initial process. So don't forget us. I don't think after this, you probably couldn't ever forget us. But yeah, just keep that in mind.
Well, thank you all very much. It's been a very, very nice time spending with you and learning more and hearing more about your perspective around Dianthus and Carnation. So I'm going to turn it back over to Andrés to close out our panel and our discussion for today.
Thank you, Becky, and thank to everyone being part of this panel. Lots of ideas, lots of work for us to be done together with the breeders and the growers down here in Colombia. I have noted like 3 or 4 complete pages of notes of things, of ideas that came through, and I'm sure Dianthus Week 2022 will be the place to be. So from now, I invite you, it's from the 7th to the 11th of March 2022. If the pandemic allows it. If not, remember that we have created our webpage, dianthusweek.com, where you can see all the varieties that the breeders have for this season. And we're going to continuously update this webpage in order for you to see what we can offer. So don't forget to check on that. And I would just want to turn it into Augusto to say goodbye.
Thank you, Andrés. Yes, I really want to thank you all, Becky and all the panelists and the breeders and sponsors for this event. As Andrés said, I think there are a lot of great ideas here. We're gonna have to write them down and just in the last part of the panel and discussion, something comes up always, which is key and powerful, which is communication. Communication among all segments of the industry, but something that was said here is very important. In which order? Which is it has to be timely communication so that decisions can be made on time, and this is going to benefit all. So we should keep this in mind. And the other thing I heard that is great is unifying messages, unifying things, working together. This is going to give a more muscle, a more powerful message. So there are a lot of things, some easy to accomplish, some others more complex because of competition and things like that. But we can work all together, and it's been a great discussion. Thank you all for your participation, and hope to see you soon. This industry has a lot of opportunities, and I feel there is a lot of energy and optimism. So this might be a memorable year. So let's keep on working together. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay.
Thanks to everyone.